I've literally learned so much from him. I just try to, do him proud and do Jerry proud and Oscar Robertson proud and guys who came before me because I learned so much from them. So that's exactly how I look at it. When I train and when I work out or when I prepare, it's all in the name of the game. It's a lot bigger than me.
Ant-Man strikes again with another bold take. I don't mind it at all. I like when players speak out and say what they got to say. It creates great conversations, as I've always mentioned. A lot of people don't always read the full quotes. They just hear the headlines. And so I'm here to read you what he actually said. I quote, "I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill. You know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe Bryant, they were like, oh my God, but now everybody has skill." I don't think Anthony Edwards for 1 second is right about this at all, saying that the players before him in the Michael Jordan era or just before Kobe had no skill at all. It's going to lead into some conversations that sound very obvious, maybe to some of y'all. Before I get into that though, let me say right off the rip, Anthony Edwards got to be careful. You don't want a situation where 30, 40 years, 50 years from now, there's a group of NBA players, and when they're asked about a guy like Anthony Edwards, they say, oh, that was back then. I never watched it. Those guys never had skill like what we're doing right now. Every generation gets caught in this, right? Where they think what they're doing and what they're seeing in that particular moment is the best thing ever. They never got to experience it. It's hard to imagine that there's something more than what is in front of them at this current point in time and within the future, whatever generation you want to look at. It's just human nature a lot of times. And if we put this in perspective, I'm a millennial. If I'm talking to somebody much younger than me about the previous generations of basketball that I got to watch, I bring up somebody, let's say like a Zach Randolph, for example. I tell them, yo, Zach was a really great power forward. You put him in today's league, I think he's still just as good. They may go back on YouTube, whatever, watch his highlights. They may not think much of him because his game was a very slow, methodical kind of approach. He still got the job done though, 20 and 10. I was on some good teams with Memphis. Now let's get into Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, the two players that Anthony Edwards kind of singled out as really the only ones with talent, or Kobe coming after Michael Jordan and being that guy. Both of them would disagree based off of comments that they've made. I'll start off with Michael Jordan and specifically get into Kobe because he's very documented on his love for the old school game of basketball and learning. Nonetheless, here's some quotes from Michael Jordan. One of them, "I built my talents on the shoulders of someone else's talent." Case closed. If he's the only one in his era with skill, then who are these players he's building his talent off of? Right? And then there's another quote. I don't know if this is the same or separate, but it says, "Greatness is an evolutionary process that changes and evolves era to era." Clearly, he's talking about even people before him that he learned from. For argument's sake, though, let's stick to the players that he played against. He struggled against the Boston Celtics. They lost in the series early in his career. I know a lot of y'all are screaming, yo, he was by himself. Again, the argument is there was no other players in that era that was just as skilled as him. If I'm going off of that argument, then he should have beat the Celtics. He had problems with the Pistons, as most of us should know, up until Scottie Pippen joined the team and then became an all-star. Now, the one that really stands out to me is the 96 NBA Finals when Gary Payton eventually switched on Michael Jordan, and Jordan was held to about 24 points per game from Game 4 onwards when Gary Payton took the defensive assignment to guard Michael Jordan exclusively. You got to have some skill in order to take a guy like Michael Jordan, who was averaging 31 points per game, and bring him down to 24 in the NBA Finals. The Bulls did win. I'm just saying this again to show that there's clearly skill set that was involved in this era.
I've stolen all of these moves from these great players.
Let's look at Oscar Robertson. Take me through what you're watching here.
What I watched when I was a kid was just watching his body position, how he uses his body, and then how he's freezing the defender and creating space and things like that. I actually won the game with that one against Toronto.
Right. That quick release. Yeah. Same quick release.
Yeah.
Jerry West.
His pull-up jump shot was absolutely vicious. I mean, he and I, we're completely two different players. But still in all, a lot of things that I can learn, even just from my own curiosity, just because I love the game.
There you have it. Kobe Bryant showing how much he appreciated old school players, taking his game to another level by studying them. And to the point that Anthony Edwards said about eventually Kobe Bryant came along and they finally found somebody who they could compare, I guess, to Michael Jordan. I'm paraphrasing. After Michael Jordan retired, there was a void in the NBA where they were trying to find that new MJ. They needed somebody, and really anyone you could say who was 6'6" that had some type of skill set, he may have got that comparison. One person who did was Vince Carter. I believe very, very early on in his career, there was that, yo, could he be that next MJ? If y'all think I'm tripping and you don't believe me, I'm going to read you a quote that Jay Williams said. The interesting thing that will always be the reality about Vince is we just came off a great documentary in The Last Dance in Michael Jordan. And when you see the talent of Vince Carter, you see Michael Jordan. You see somebody who is a skilled, maybe more athletic, more graceful to a degree in the air. Maybe skill-wise wasn't all the way there as MJ was, but definitely had the ability to get there. That was a quote from Jay Williams. I will say, when it comes to skill, the biggest transition, the biggest gap that has happened over the years is definitely the big man position. You see, back in the day, if you weren't somebody like a Patrick Ewing or a Karl Malone, you could be out there as a big man and just be an enforcer. Somebody who literally uses your 6 fouls, throws his body around, sets picks. You're not there to really score at all. The only time you touch the basketball is when you get a rebound. If the conversation was centered around that, no pun intended, it would have been a lot more fruitful within the context that I explained. I will end off by saying you had Larry Bird, then you had a Reggie Miller. After Reggie Miller, you had a Ray Allen, then you had a Steph Curry. So even with the guards and the other forwards who are not big men, you still had that succession that you saw that over time evolved into what it is today. With that being said, let me know how you are seeing things. Do you agree with Anthony Edwards? I mean, I would hope not. I believe most people who watch my page and know really the game of basketball understand that there were skilled players in every era, not just Michael Jordan alone by himself. But if I'm wrong and if the rest of us are wrong, let me know. Explain it. Let's hear the conversation. I'm here for it. Like, share, and subscribe as always. Also, if you check the description, there's an Amazon link to the Kobe Bryant book, The Mamba Mentality. I explained this before in other videos that I ended off. If you want a good narration of the story, you heard some of the clips that I play for y'all, go ahead and check this book. And as always, salute for listening. Peace.